completion percentage of his NFL career. Keep in mind, coming into Sunday, he's completing over 70% of his passes. So go from 70 to 38 is really bad. He was 0 of 12 passing when under pressure. The second most incompletions in the game in his career. The last quarterback to have 12 attempts and 0 completions under pressure, Blake Bortles in 2017. All bad for Jared Goff and the Lions.
Yeah, and the worst part about this for me, and I said this to Rob maybe when they 2 weeks ago lost to the Vikings. We were having this conversation, and I believe it now more than ever that the countdown has begun for Jared Goff. Not that he won't be a quality quarterback, as you mentioned, Rob. Not that he won't have a high completion percentage. That's what he does. But the idea that you can continue to think you're going to win a Super Bowl after about this season, maybe next, Rob, because right now they have an infrastructure built in, right? This is what we are. This is the system. This is it. So they're in a good place, still expecting to make the playoff. They made it harder on themselves yesterday. But I watched that game realizing, and I've mentioned it before, as we have other TVs going on here, right now they got the Chiefs and the Broncos. I'm looking at Bo Nix and I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes, both guys who can make some plays. I'm looking at other games that we got up here, both guys who can make plays with their feet. And Jared Goff, if you put the pressure on him, he is not able to do anything else. And he is the last of that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Somebody's coming, I'm just going to drop down. That stand up in the pocket, can't do anything, is gone. And obviously the Eagles knew the blueprint. Bring the interior pressure, bring the defensive lineman on him, and he'll get rattled. And they even had Jalen Carter talked about, we knew if we blocked a few of his passes, he would even get rattled and get down on himself. So I watched that game.
All right, man, we night vision with it. Ain't nobody on the road. Nice, smooth freeway. They didn't seem like they did a good job. But it was working all summer on it. But, yeah, Jared Goff, man, I was watching Rob Parker. He does the show. Him and Cruz Broussard, they don't do it no more. He got another guy, Rob G, on there. And, I might play a little small snippet of that if I remember. And he talked about the clock is now ticking on Jared Goff. And those demons that's following Jared Goff from L.A. is following him here. And I've talked about they can't win with Jared Goff. And he kind of spoke on something that I kind of touched on, was that the league is just going in a different direction. The ability to be able to sit in that pocket, not do nothing is crazy. I think they said he was 0 for 12 against the pressure. You know what I'm saying? 0 for 12 against the pressure. You know what I'm saying? Like, when pressure was coming, like I'm told y'all, he missed to throw it in the dirt. He didn't do well against the pressure. So even if they transition into a new offensive line, which probably will continue to transition next year, Taylor Decker probably need to be packed up and took out behind the barn and put old Yellow down. All right. But it will be a transition, but he doesn't like give you much to work with. You start thinking about Lamar, Josh, Patrick. When as they're trying to figure it out, they still can improv and make stuff happen. But the whole the thing about it is this. The only thing that really Brad Holmes has to answer to is getting a quarterback. That's the only thing that Brad Holmes has to answer to. Can he evaluate and draft a quarterback? And that's hard to do. I mean, you look at the Vikings, there's some questions about J.J. McCarthy. Michael Penix then tore ACL again. He tore it in college, I believe, at Indiana. I mean, there's a lot of, you go from Mac Jones to Trevor Lawrence. You have to understand, too, right now, for quarterback, there seems like there's been more quarterbacks, especially in the early rounds or first round, failing than ever been before. You had guys that had small success like Derek Carr and Carson Wentz. They had some success and then they just fell off the map. You had Baker Mayfield, who had a rocky start, figured it out. Darnold, a lot of guys. So that's really it. And I think he tried to do that with Hendon Hooker, and he just was a lost cause. So, at the end of the day, do you do it again? You look at it, I set this infrastructure up for this team. Are we going to be honest with ourselves and be like, hey, man, we can't get it done with this guy? And it's just to the point where he doesn't have a great arm. Come on, he doesn't have much arm power. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have mobility. He doesn't even have pocket mobility like a Drew Brees or a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady with their ability to slide in the pocket. As soon as he move off the mark, it's going in the dirt. And Jalen Carter made some comments I heard that said they knew if we batted a couple balls down, he was going to get frustrated. So do you do what Alex Smith or what Kansas City did? And I believe they tried that with Hendon Hooker. I don't think that was, they was like, oh, he on our board. Hey, we can use him. You know, I think that was more of that. But do you go out there and you try to get, you know, a Dante Moore or and you would have to probably miss the playoffs or somebody would have to fall. And I think they will miss the playoffs, to be honest with you. I don't think this is a playoff caliber team. It's just too many. The defense is going to get healthy, but it's the same shit every year. You know what I'm saying? They're going to play well defensively. If they get in, it's going to be the strength of their defense and getting healthy. But the quarterback just can't make up for the transition of the offensive line. At some point, it had to transition. It's going to continue to transition from Taylor Decker, and Brad Holmes done his best trying to get Manu Giovanni guy, Miles Frazier, Corey Seward. He tried his best to get a lot of these guys in position, Mahogany, you know, and it's going to take time, right? It's going to take time. He's done his best to try to fill those voids and those holes. But right during that transition, it's just like, you know, Goff can't give us anything. You know, he can't he can't give us anything in the mobility realm of things. Nothing. And you got to ask yourself, is it time for them to make a bold move and get over that hump? And they love Jared Goff. Great leader, you know what I'm saying? And they won't do it. The Lions never have the balls to make bold moves. Only bold moves that they ever made was telling Barry and Calvin Johnson play or retire. They don't have the balls to make this bold move. They're not going to stick their neck out and try Kyler Murray. They're not going to go out there and pay 2 first-round or high-round quarterbacks like Eagles did with Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz and Trent. They're not going to do that. They're going to live or die by Jared Goff. That's it. That's their guy. Unless a major injury happened or something like that, the Lions, it's really not a window. It's really not a window. And I'm just being honest. Is the win with Jared Goff, you're not going to win it. You're not going to win it. You're not going to win it with him. So, you know, I believe Rob G is right. In reality, the clock should have been started ticking. But the clock is not going to tick. They're going to live and die by Jared Goff. And this team is either going to win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. Okay? They're either going to win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, or they're not going to win one with this group of guys. It's as simple as that. You go from one of the youngest teams to one of the oldest teams overnight. Real talk. It's that simple. And right now, it's the best time to probably win a Super Bowl because there's nobody dominant. Philly defense was good. But you tell me if, you know, the Lions don't have a Baker Mayfield type of quarterback, they don't win that game. Fuck a Kyler Murray type of quarterback, they don't win that game. They do. They do. A guy that can just run for a first down. And ultimately what's going to go down is I think the Rams might make the Super Bowl. Stafford's going to probably be MVP of the league, maybe win the Super Bowl. And what's going to go down is, as people say it's a 50-50 trade, it's going to go down as a big win for the Rams. They're going to get an MVP out of it, maybe 2 Super Bowls out of it. I think they may be one of the favorites. 2 Super Bowls out of it, an MVP Stafford, and definitely in the Hall of Fame at this point. There's no doubt about it. You know, and I think ultimately that put it to bed. And one may wonder, had Matthew Stafford wanted to stick around through another rebuild, ain't nobody blame him. The whole controversy for me come from, you know, you didn't want to trade Calvin and do the right thing. You didn't want to trade Barry, who were both better than Matthew Stafford. But you traded Matthew Stafford. And y'all, I'm exactly saying what you guys are thinking. We know what it was about. We know the Ford's family history. You know, if you don't know, look it up, right? But you just one thinks, what if he was able to keep Stafford? What this would have looked like? And maybe it wouldn't have looked good anyway. Maybe Stafford was meant to be successful somewhere else, and Sean McVay ain't no slouch. But ultimately, let's not forget Ben Johnson taking shots, and the Bears are in first place. I don't know if it will last, but they're in first place. The Lions are third. You know? And like I said before, they're going to find a way for Green Bay to be in it. Let me tell you that right now. You know, they're going to find a way for Green Bay to be in it. And right now, the Lions are 1-2 in their division. I think the AFC, NFC West is going to get 3 teams in. So I don't believe the Lions will make it. You know, just my opinion. And for the most part, they don't deserve to make it because they keep making some of the same mistakes. Every year it's injuries. You know, and it's time to be said. Dan Campbell picked 2 wrong offensive coordinators out of 3. Anthony Lynn and John Morton. And really, is John Morton the problem? That's a great. I had a video coming about that. John Morton really the problem because Campbell having the same issues John Morton had. I think that window is so ever so closing for the Lions. I think it's closing. With this group of guys, I think it's closing. It's my opinion. I think that window is closing. And one thing that keeps the window open, which the Rams have found out, well, you got a franchise quarterback, the window won't be open. And I don't think they have the balls. Let me say this. I don't think Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have the balls. And I don't think they even have the ownership to go out there and make a boss move and tell Cincinnati, hey, look here, we willing to give up the farm for a Joe Burrow. What you want? Or we willing to go out there and draft the Dante Moore, draft the quarterback, and put the pressure on Jared Goff. We willing to go out there and find the guy and put the pressure on Jared Goff. You know, we see a guy out there that we fucking like. Oh, I don't know. I can't think of no quarterbacks available outside of Kyler. Hey, we gonna go ahead and make that boss move right now. They don't have the balls to do it. Outside of Mike Ilitch historically and maybe Tom Gore's doing boss shit with his money, it ain't gonna happen. They're gonna live and die by Jared Goff, and that window is gonna be nailed shut. And what people are gonna say is, man, if they would have had a quarterback, but it's tough to groom one these days. It is tough to groom a quarterback. It's a lot of failing young quarterbacks in the NFL today. So, you know, what people do, they stick to what they know, even if it's failing. And that's one thing that, you know, some of us, we just stick to the same method. I'm guilty of it instead of just saying, okay, let's flip this shit. Let's try something new. We so safe in our daily routine that we scared to take a chance. And I think the Lions, they just not that type of franchise. But hey, check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist, hit the link tree. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, X, the whole 9. I appreciate the love and support. Check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist. Peace.